Galaxy 8 is waiting for the meeting. Galaxy 8? Galaxy S8.
Where's Galaxy S8? Who's Alex?
I didn't know.
Hi, Rabbi Becker.
Hey, Josh, what's doing?
How you doing?
Cool. I was thinking about calling you. I forgot to call you. We gotta get back on our Seder. By the way,
Yeah.
you know, every once in a while I hear my kids singing your song.
No way.
They sing it to themselves.
The Yetzer Hara one?
Yeah, they're singing.
Nice.
They mess up the lyrics a little bit, but they're into it.
Yeah, kids, it's amazing. Kids can remember. I did a Hanukkah song for my cousins in Lakewood once, and they remembered it. They remembered it forever. You know, like kids can absorb music. I feel like that. You know, lyrics better than adults can in a lot of ways.
Yeah, if we could get maybe you could send me the lyrics so we can get the exact lyrics down.
Yeah, sure.
You know, they keep singing about picking up the phone on Shabbos, leave me alone, but like,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Is this Daf Yomi? I thought this is Rabbi Brand. Is this your Daf Yomi shir still, or is Rabbi Brander now?
This is Daf Yomi shir.
Oh, it's Daf Yomi shir. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Daf Yomi shir. We're up to.
I thought I thought it started at 7:30. No.
Yeah, today I was asked to start it at 8 because of to accommodate Rosh Chodesh.
Oh, Rosh Chodesh. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
I don't even see the people who asked me to do it that time. They didn't even sign on now. So I don't know. Maybe it's going later.
Yeah, I'm going to be kind of multitasking, so I'm going to turn off my video, but I'm still listening. All right.
All right, sure. Okay. So today we are going to finish the parak B'ezras Hashem, and yeah. So we're going to start with the Mishnah on Yutes phase. The Mishnah writes. So this is the famous halacha about shehiyah. Shehiyah, we're going to discuss more about this in a later parak, but the halacha called shehiyah, which means that one is not allowed to leave fire on a flame before Shabbos, even though you don't actually put it on Shabbos. Going into Shabbos, you can't put it on a flame if you don't meet certain requirements. And the reason, some of the requirements is that it has to be partially cooked, the fire has to be covered, or some sort of hecker recognition. And all this is because of an idea that we're afraid you might come to soak the coals, or you may come to raise the flame and cook on Shabbos when you see it's not fully ready. Therefore, we require certain preventions before Shabbos in order that you do not stoke the coal. Okay, so being that said, let us see let's start the Mishnah. The Mishnah writes, Ein solin basar batzel beitza al kivishitzu moed yom. A person cannot roast meat or an onion or an egg al kivishitzu moed yom. You have to do it with the amount of time that it will be roasted properly before Shabbos starts. And we'll discuss how much is that time. How much is that? Ein noisen pasta tanar im chashecha. Similar halacha when it comes to bread. And a baker cannot put bread in the oven im chashecha before Shabbos starts. And likewise, you can't put some sort of charara, some sort of wafer, some sort of cookie thing on top of the coals. It has to be put there on Friday with sufficient time that its face, the outside layer of the bread or this wafer has a coating, has a crust that forms, a darkened crust that forms b'vod yom on Friday before Shabbos, and we'll discuss exactly when is that. We started the Mishnah, Michael. When exactly is Mishnah on top bottom of New Testament Aleph, and when you have to put the bread in sufficient time that the fake bread crust over. Which face is that? Because in the olden days, the ovens were made in a way where they took a thing of dough, and they stuck it to the side of this oven, and actually it was on the walls of the oven. So one face of it was stuck to the oven walls, and the other face was facing the fire. So the question is, which side has to be crusted over? We'll discuss that in a moment tomorrow. Elazar argues, says no. The bottom layer has to be the tachton. We'll also discuss which is the tachton has to cross over. Next halacha. Mishal shalin es a pesach. Mishal since a pesach betanu chashecha. One, this is the korban pesach. Before Shabbos, it says pesach that falls on erev Shabbos. Guessing. So mishal since a pesach betanu chashecha, you are allowed to put the korban pesach. Mishal means like lower it, the spit in the oven when it's Friday. Right, and you're allowed to do that as well, even though it's not properly cooked yet. We'll discuss why. Why are you allowed to do that, even if it doesn't have that level of cooked yet? And likewise, in the Beis Hamikdash, the Beis Hamikdash could potentially be a unhealthy for the Kohanim, because the Kohanim had to go around the entire day. The Kohanim had to, we started the Mishnah, the Kohanim had to go around the entire day in the Beis Hamikdash barefoot, which could get quite cold, and they could get ill. So therefore, they had this special room called the Beis Hamikdash, this chamber in the Beis Hamikdash, which had a fire going there at all times, that the Kohanim could come there and warm up there. So that's that area over there. That fire, in regards to how much the fire had to be burning before Shabbos, that fire the furnace that they were warming themselves with, it doesn't have to be lit properly. It just has to machiz, and you just have to grab a hold. The fire has to grab a hold of the logs, the little wood chips there under there to that lights the fire. It doesn't have to have a proper flame going before Shabbos, and we're not worried that perhaps you're going to stoke the coals to make the fire go better on Shabbos, because the Beis Hamikdash, we'll see why we are not as worried in the Beis Hamikdash. Okay. Ubekvulen outside the base of Midrash, if you want to fire a bonfire, a furnace going, you have to make sure that the wood that's burning is caught fire of the majority of the wood. We'll see what majority means. I mean, the majority of the pieces of wood, or maybe it means the majority of each piece of wood, right? Not just the majority piece of wood, but not the majority of the number of wood, but each piece of wood needs a majority of that piece. We'll see in a moment. And Rabbi Yehuda says, right, we're on top of Chafam at Aleph, at the end of the Mishnah, when it comes to coals, I think this is coals, if I'm not mistaken, Pachamim. I don't know what translation.
It is coal.
It's coals, okay, yeah. So a lot of things when it comes to describing ancient remedies or ancient items, I don't have a translation, so you could help me out. I could guess based on the context of what Rashi and Tosfos said. But common kolshu is kolshu, because coals, they just have to be lit a little bit, and we know the nature of coals. If you ever seen a barbecue, you have to light. You have to get them lit. But even if they're not lit, the majority, they slowly by themselves catch fire, and they remain. And therefore, we don't worry, even if the majority is not lit, that you might come to stoke the coals on Shabbos, because the nature of coals is that they remain and they light for themselves and they go, and you won't. There's no need to stoke them. Ask the Gemara B'Kama. So we said the Mishnah writes that you cannot put food or meat or any food item on if it needs to be cooked on the fire before Shabbos, right? The amount of time, unless it's a certain extent cooked, because we're worried if it's not, you might come to stoke the coals on Shabbos. How much does it have to be cooked? So Amar Rab Elazar Amar Rab, it has to be cooked to the extent where it is roasted kemachol ben drusai. There is a robber back in the day named Ben Drusai, some bandit, and a bandit is always on the run. And when he cooks, he has to cook right away. He has to cook it and wolf it down without being fully cooked. So the Gemara always uses him as a terminology. What's the bare minimum level of considered cooked? When you go to a restaurant, how rare does your steak have to be? Right? It's bachol ben drusai. It's a machlokas how much it is. It's either a third cook or half cook. I think we paskin it's a third cook. Rashi brings down a third cooked is considered sufficient for human consumption, being that we find that this robber used to consume at that stage. So it has to be at least that amount to cook before Shabbos. And when you have that amount cooked before Shabbos, we're not worried that you're going to stoke the coals on Shabbos, being that it's sufficiently cooked before Shabbos to a certain extent. And the Gemara proves that point. We know there's a halacha that the rabbis made a decree that you are not allowed to eat food, even kosher food, cooked by a guy, right? With certain provisions, there's certain stipulations there. It has to be a chashava food, it has to be a food that you couldn't eat raw. But you're not allowed to, if it meets those requirements, a guy cannot cook it for you. However, if a Jew prior cooked it, machol ben drusai, it was prior cooked to this extent, the third cook. Subsequently, if a guy goes and finishes off and cooks it, it's not a problem because it's considered already cooked already. So the same concept that we find machol ben drusai is the status of being fully cooked, and we likewise will make that application for Shabbos and purposes as well. Going to Shabbos, machol ben drusai, you're okay, and we don't worry that you'll soak the coals. And Chananya Omer, we'll see this coming up on Daf Lamed Vav. Chananya says, Kol shu machol ben drusai, the same concept. If you're the third cooked, you're allowed to leave it put it on a flame before Shabbos, going to Shabbos, even though you don't meet the requirements that normally you need is to scrape out the coals or put ashes on it, which are normally recognitions that you shouldn't stoke the coals. You don't have to go through those requirements and cover the fire or whatever you need to do because you're sufficiently cooked, and therefore we're not worried you're going to stoke the coals. The Mishnah goes further. The Gemara goes further on the Mishnah. Hey, Noisten. Right, we're on the top of, we're in the Chafam and Aleph, the first two dots on the page. Hey, Noisten es a past. Iboiluhu. You're not allowed to put the bread in the oven for Shabbos unless the Rabbanan say that its face has to be crusted over. And Rebbe Elazar says only the bottom has to be crusted over. So a little bit ambiguous, a little bit vague. Which bottom is there? There's right. The Gemara feels there's two bottoms. Ibarlu tachton hech. Which bottom? Hech ligabe taner. Is it the bottom which faces the tanner? In other words, it's the bottom in the sense that it's the one that's facing the wall of the tanner because it's stuck to the wall of the tanner. Does that bottom have to be? Which would be in a sense there'll be a leniency. I'm sorry, there'll be a stringency. Or it has to be the bottom which faces the fire, which is a leniency, as Rashi says. Because if it only has to be cooked the amount of time for the bottom to be crusted over facing the fire, when you face the fire, the side that faces it gets cooked much quicker. And I see this every single day when I put bread in the toaster oven, right? The bread in the toaster oven, the part facing the flame, facing that hot iron rod, right, gets cooked. You'll see, gets cooked much faster. Gets the toasted much faster. That means it's a leniency, because we only require you to have it Erev Shabbos, that part crusted over, then you're okay. The part which gets quicker. But if to say to the extent where you need the side that is facing the walls of that stuck to the wall of the tanner to be crusted over, that takes a much longer time. And that if that's the requirement, that would be a stringency, that you need to wait that amount of time before Shabbos in order to be going to Shabbos and be okay. That's the question. And subsequently, whatever Rebbe Elazar, if Rebbe Elazar's opinion is a leniency, then you'll have to translate the rabbis in the Mishnah Arganim to mean that astringency, that you need the entire time, you need the entire thing crossed over, and vice versa. If Rebbe Elazar is referring to a stringency that you need the side facing the tanner, then you'll have to say the Rabbanu argue that says in the Mishnah, refers to all you need is the side facing the flame. So you'll have to plug in the Mishnah, and whatever Elazar holds, you'll subsequently have to fit that into what the Rabban hold. This is all pointed out by Tosfos. So that's the Gemara's question, and the Gemara brings a proof that Rebbe Elazar is stringent, because Rebbe Elazar needs the side facing the tanner, not the fire, to also be crusted over going into Shabbos, which is a longer period of time that needs to be in the oven before Shabbos. The Gemara goes weiter. Mishal Shunas Pesach. You're allowed to put the Korban Pesach going into Erev Shabbos, into the oven, into the flame, right? It seems like even though, and we're not worried about stoking the coals, it seems like even if it's not fully cooked, even if it's not machal v'jinusoi. My timer, what's the reason? You seem to let up on the rules of this idea that we're worried about stoking the coals. Why are you not worried about stoking the coals by the Korban Pesach? The answer is Mishum D'Bnei Chabura's reasoning. Because the Chabura, the people who have a Korban Pesach together, are reasoning this is a once-a-year mitzvah, and they're considered really elaborate. They're quick, and this is something special, and they're very careful. And we're not afraid when it comes to Korban Pesach, because of the specialty of this mitzvah, that they'll come to stoke the coals. Ask the Gemara, halav hachi, but if it's not for the fact that there's reason, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we said before, if you remember, a couple days ago, 2 days ago, the Bnei Gad, the Gad Yabin Sharpen Lo Shark Shapardam. The Gemara said before, and we passed in this way, that when it came to goat meat, whether you sealed the oven of the tanner or whether you didn't seal it, we're never concerned by goat meat that you'll stoke the coals, because apparently uncovering the fire to stoke the coals will be damaging to the goat meat. Wind and air hurts the goat meat, and therefore we're never worried about that. And a Korban Pesach is a gedi, is a goat, right? A goat or a lamb, it can be a goat. So why in the world are we worried about stoking the coals? It's only because of a separate reason, because there's reason. People are considered alacrite. But its indication is if they weren't alacrite, it would be a problem. Why is that a problem? This is goat meat. And to the Gemara, also mincha chala mincha. It depends. Over there, the goat we were talking about, where it was cut up. Mintach is cut up. Being that it was cut up, the meat, there the wind is detrimental to it, it hurts it. And in that event, we're not worried about stoking the coals, because you'll never remove the lid of the tanner to stoke the coals, because the wind will hurt it. But here, lo mintach, a Korban Pesach, as we know, is al roishav al kirvot. You cook it whole. The entire thing is a whole lamb. That's the way you cook it. It's not cut up. So apparently wind and air is not detriment, doesn't hurt it. And then we are worried about stoking the coals if it wasn't for the fact that there's reason, that they're considered alacrite in this mitzvah and they'll never come to do it. That's the Gemara's answer. Likewise, the Gemara goes further on the Mishnah. Machizin as or. The Mishnah writes that in the Beis HaMoikad, In the Beis Hamikdash, we don't have to wait for the fire to catch hold entirely. It's just enough to grab onto the logs a little bit, and then you let it go and you let it burn. Because in the Beis Hamikdash, we don't seem to be worried about stoking the coals. Where do you know these words from? What's the source in the Beis Hamikdash? We're more lenient when there's fire halacha. So Amar Rav Huna, it says Lo Savareish B'chol Mos Vasechem. It says you shouldn't burn a fire. This is talking about on Shabbos. Don't burn a fire in all your dwelling places. So we make a deal here. B'chol Mos Vasechem, in all your dwelling places. Iyatamav, you're not allowed to fire on Shabbos. But Atamaver Madrus Bismilga. But in not your dwelling place, meaning the Beis Hamikdash, in this chamber, the inference is, you would be able to light a fire. In Beis Hamoked, you would be, meaning because it says all your dwelling places you can light a fire, indicating, but there is none in your dwelling place you could light a fire, which is what? In the Beis Hamoked, the Beis Hamikdash. Which the Gemara then asks the obvious question: was maskif law, Rav Chisli Yachi? If that's the case, the pasuk seems to indicate Hafil b'Shabbos Nami. Does that mean you could light a fire on Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash? Because if you're going to go with that pasuk, the pasuk says you can't light a fire in all your moshvos, indicating the Beis Hamikdash you're allowed to. Then that should even include on Shabbos itself, not just going into Shabbos, a weak flame going into Shabbos, even Shabbos itself. So the Gemara retracts as far as Ella, a new source. Amar Rav Chisda Kraki Asa Mishrei Erev B'Tarim. Really, in reality, that pasuk you brought, which seems to indicate that there's allowed to be a fire burning in the Beis Hamikdash, is referring to Shabbos. But what is it referring to? It's referring to the Friday korbanos, the leftover korbanos, which halacha is, we know tfilas arvis, we discussed in Maseches Brachos. Arvis, or Shachris and Mincha, are corresponding to the Talmud of the morning and Talmud afternoon. And we know Arvit, Ma'ariv, corresponds to the limbs of the Korban Shel Ben Abayim, which could be sacrificed the entire night. They're not Ma'akev. It doesn't hold back from the mitzvah. They're definitely a hitter mitzvah to do it, but they represent that the entire night, burning those Avarim and burning those limbs of the Korban Talmud. Thereby, if Friday, the leftover limbs of the Korban Talmud, you're allowed to burn them on Shabbos. It's going into Shabbos. You're allowed to do that. Tosfos says, with the requirement, providing, Tosfos says there has to be a requirement that the majority of them was already burnt on Friday. There's just now the remaining part, it needs to be finished off on Friday night. Tosfos needs the requirement for various reasons. But that's what we're referring to in this pasuk, the fire you're allowed to burn on Shabbos. It's referring to the leftover limbs of the korban on Friday. Those can be burned on Shabbos, but it certainly does not refer to lighting a fire on Shabbos, and nothing to do with our discussion about having a weak flame in the Beis Hamikdash lit on Friday going into Shabbos. That's a different reason. That's the Kohanim's reason. That's a concept. The reason you're allowed to do that in Beis Hamikdash, because in the Beis Hamikdash, normal things that we're worried about us, who are not Kohanim, outside the Beis Hamikdash, doing, there's Rabbanan, we're not worried about in the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash Kohanim are extremely accurate. They're extremely careful in mitzvahs, and they're quick and busy. I saw there's an account that's even recorded in Josephus about the Kohanim in the Beis Hamikdash, showing how quick they went and careful. They wouldn't drop anything. It was an unbelievable process, and we're not worried about them making a mistake and stoking the coals. There is a concept also in Shvus B'Mikdash. I'm not sure it's the same thing. We don't have rabbinical decrees in the Beis Hamikdash. It could be because of this reason as well. I don't see that, but because rabbinical decrees by and large are there to prevent people from coming to over on a derais in the Beis Hamikdash. This is a place of the Shekhinah's presence. It's like the king's palace. We're not as worried about these things. Goes the Gemara Baiter. The Begvul and Kedei Shetoiches. When you're outside Beis Hamikdash, you need the majority of the fire to be lit before Shabbos, or else we're worried about soaking the coals. Majority is vague. What is majority of what? My Ruvan. Does Rov mean majority of the number of sticks that you have? Or does it mean the majority of each piece of wood? So my Ruvan Amarav, Rov Kalech Rav says it means the majority of each and every log. You have to have not just majority of sticks. Every log has to be lit on fire, but the majority of that log has to be lit on fire. Shmuel says a little bit more of a doesn't say a exact measurement. He just says the amount that it will take. That if you're lighting a bonfire, you won't tell your friends, we need more wood to get this going farther. It's sufficient enough that it will be able to now light by itself and go by itself. It has to be on autopilot now. That's what Shmuel says. That extent where it's lit enough that now it will catch fire by itself. Tana Rav Chia l'siyud Shmuel. Rav Chia brings a brisa which proves Shmuel's point. It says this is regarding the menorah. Regarding the menorah, you have to light the menorah to the extent where now the amount that you lit it, it should be able to light up entirely by itself. So I guess that's an idea over there, as we see that when the Torah is makbid, and an idea, even though it has nothing to do with our discussion, but the Torah is makbid, that something needs to be lit and not be extinguished, we see that it's sufficient for you to light to the extent, even it might be minimal, but to the extent where it will be able to go by itself without further help. That is sufficient. And likewise, the Gemara feels to make that application by us as well. That's sufficient to light to the extent where it will be able to go by itself. And you don't have to have the majority. You don't have to have exact measurements and measure it to the majority of a log. That's not important. What's important is that it'll be able to catch fire by itself from your input. And therefore, on Shabbos, you're not concerned with you'll stoke the coals. Goes the Gemara further. And not that the fire should be needed to be lit by another item. What about one individual log of wood? And how much does it have to be lit before Shabbos in order that you're not afraid you're going to stoke it to get it going further on Shabbos? Rav says the majority of the thickness of the log, right? It has to be going into the log internally, the majority. And some people say the majority of the hekev, the circumference, right? The outer circle, it has to be not only inside the circle, the thickness of the circle, it has to be, the flame has to travel around the majority in the circle, in the rove circumference. And our Papa, therefore, Papa says, Hilkach bina roiv abu bina roiv kefa. Papa says, therefore, we need both. Kitanoi, and this is in fact the machlokes of Tanoim. Rav Chia Omer Kadesh Yasus Eitz Melechus Uman. Rav Chia says the amount, I don't know how to translate exactly, the amount that the wood is Yash Melechus Uman. And Rav Yehuda Meser Omer Kadesh Toich Kadesh B'Yisraelim. So apparently, Rav Chia needs only the majority, the majority thickness, the amount that will get destroyed. And Yehuda says it needs to be from both sides. Even though we don't have a proof to this matter, there is a zeichel, which means there's some sort of hint in the psukim in Yecheskel, which I don't know what the context of it is talking about. I'm sure the Ausik will explain. This is a shneik. It's talking about being. I think it's talking about what's talking about something being destructive, the fire destroying something, and it speaks about it from two sides. That's two sides of it, meaning the circumference seems to be the indication that it's able to be destroyed fully, which will be a raya of zecher to our idea that when you're considered sufficiently caught on fire is when the circumference is lit on fire properly. That's what it seems like it's saying.
Yeah, that's what the article says, Rabbi.
Okay, great. Another pasuk in Yirmiyahu. I think this pasuk in the Gemara goes further. This pasuk in Yirmiyahu, I think, is referring to the Megillah that Yehoiakim the king burned when Yirmiyahu, the Megillah's Eicha, I think, when he was shown it to, the foreboding of the Beis Hamikdash being destroyed, the Megillah's Eicha, and he burned it in the fire. So it says, Va'ach, this wicked king burnt it in the fire. He didn't want to hear any about the destruction. He took Eicha and burnt it. It says, Va'ach l'fnei lefanov miva'eres. The ach in front of him he burned. My ach, what is this word ach? Sounds like the word brother. So Amar Rav Achuna b'Shmuel, or Amar Rav Achuna. Rav says it refers to Achuna. Like
ach is a fireplace in Hebrew. Also, it's both.
Yeah. So the root, the Gemara is trying to figure out the root of the word. Rav said the root of the word is actually brotherhood.
It's like where you cook pizzas in Israel. Basically, it's like, that kind of a fireplace that's surrounded by a wall.
Right.
And you just put it in. Like in Bibi's, how they have it,
Yeah. So the ach over here, what's the root of the word? So Amar of Achuna, it kind of means like, Achuna actually, Rashi says, is arava, is a willow. I don't know, willow, is that what it says? Is that what it says in article? Willow? Arava. Willow leaves. And Shmuel Amar Eitzim Shenitlukum Achuna. Shmuel said it's referring to wood which are lit. Achuna. Achuna means like, I think it means like brotherhood. Like each candle, each flame light, they join together in a joint effort to light each other. That's what it means. So it's that type of flame which they work together, like in brotherhood, all the different wood to light each other. So they're just trying to figure out the language of ach, which means this furnace, where that root of the word comes from. There was this incident, the Gemara gets proves it from this incident. There was a certain person who says, Man boy achuna. who wants achvana ishtachach arvasa? And you found that I guess he was selling arvasa, willows. I guess that proves there was willow branches. Okay. Amrav Huna, Kanim ain't strichim roiv. In regards to our discussion about how much you have to be lit before Shabbos in order to go into Shabbos and not worry about soaking the coals, when it comes to kanim, which are reeds are they're long and extremely flammable apparently. So they don't need a roiv. They don't need a majority because even a little bit lit by them, they'll come to light by themselves, and we're not worried about the rov. Ogdom, but if they were tied together in a bundle, then since they're tightly tied together, therefore it's not a clear, sure thing that you light a little bit, they'll all be lit, they'll all come to light. Then you need a majority. Garinin are seeds. Seeds which are flammable. They used to light these seeds. Ain srich and rov. They also don't need a rov because apparently they'll be able to light just by lighting a little bit. They're that flammable. But nasim mechoises, if you put them in baskets, srich and rov, then since they're tightly pressed together in baskets, therefore the fire won't be able to spread as well unless you have a majority lit. Maskula rechista adarabba. I would think it's the opposite. The opposite is logical. If you don't tie the reeds together, these long reeds together, then they'll all be vadram. They'll scatter one in this direction, one in this direction. They won't properly come to light. But you ogdam lavadrim. If you tie them together, they won't come to scatter, and that's a better way that will come to light the entire thing and be flammable and not need an entire thing lit before Shabbos. And likewise, and vice versa as well when it comes to the seeds. Garin and mivadran are also go here and there and are everywhere. And but nosim bechasalos, but if you put them in a basket, then they're more compact, and that's more of a likelihood that just by lighting a little bit, they'll all catch on fire. And they'll mivadran, they won't come to be separated and scattered. So Rav Chisda felt the opposite logic. And Itmarnami, the Gemara also says such a concept, like opposite logic. It's right. Amar of Kana, Kanim Sha'agdim Srichem Rov. Well, the gears that we have in front of us, it's still the same as Kanim. When it comes to the reeds that they're tied together, they need a majority because apparently tied together, this is like Rav Huna, that if they're tied together, the fire cannot be shaylik, doesn't catch them as well. And when they're not tied together, since they're very long, we're not worried they're going to come to scattered. But Garinin, when it comes to seeds, it's the opposite. Like Rav Chisda Srich and Rov, they need a majority. But Nasim Bechasos, if they're in a basket and they're compact together in a basket, then they don't need a majority. So this is like a mix and match opinion that he holds like one hand, like Rav Huna when it comes to reeds, but he holds like Rav Chisda that the bath that tightly more pressed together by Garinim is much better. Tani Rav Yossi learned in a brisa, Arba Maduros, there are 4 furnaces or 4 fires, 4 large fires, 4 large bonfires, Ein Srich and Rov, that all these do not need a majority before Shabbos going in to be lit, and we're not worried about soaking the coals. Shel Zephes is some sort of tar, some sort of pitch, that even lighting a little bit, apparently the way that it's lit, its nature is that a little bit lit will light and keep going by itself. Very flammable. Vishal Gofris is also some sort of sulfur. Vishal Grina, there's a different gear. Rava is some sort of grass. Vishal Ravav are any sort of like oily sort of like oils, shum fats, waxy things, anything which melting sort of lighting things. These things also don't need a rove. Lighting a little bit, the whole thing will catch on fire. In Masis and Tana Bryce, we learned af shel kash shel gvava, even of kash and gvava. These are certain straws and grasses. And Amar of Yosi eitzim shabab and Rav Yochanan comes in and says, wood of Babel doesn't need a majority. Babylonian wood, the way they chopped it, apparently was extremely flammable in the sense that you won't need a majority. Master of Yosi Mahi, what is Babylonian wood? Ilema silti, if it means what is Babylonian wood? Ilema silti, if it means silti, means small. When they chopped the wood the wood very, very thin, kind of like wood chips, kind of. If it means that, so the Gemara says it can mean that because hashab sila merula, even a wick which is very, very thin, very thin, a little tiny wick. The halacha is Ula says Hamadli Sor Shalek B'Roiv. One who lights a wick on Shabbos needs to make sure he lights the majority that comes out of the wick, right? That's sticking out of the candle. He has to light the majority. Silti mibayle, these little wood chips for sure he needs to. I mean, if even we're concerned by a little thin wick, Ula says, for sure when it comes to small wood, you should be concerned. So Elam Rav Yosef Sheicha de Arza. What is this idea of Babylonian wood that doesn't need a majority? It's considered flammable enough before Shabbos, you're okay. It's Sheicha de Arza, which refers to this, I don't know how to translate this exactly, but it is if you peel off the bark of the wood of a cedar tree, in between the bark and the wood, there's some sort of strandy sort of material there, woolish sort of material there, and apparently that is flammable. So that's flammable enough that you don't need the majority to light before Shabbos. Rami Bar Abba Omer Zaza. Rami Bar Abba said it's Zaza. What is Zaza? I don't know what that is. Rashi in French says it's a molsa. Mols? I don't know what that is. Maybe it's moss? I don't know. But this material is very flammable.
Yeah, moss. That's from
Perhaps
our school.
Okay, it's moss. Okay. Hadrulav, you see a Shabbos Mazel Tov. We finished our first parak in Masechah Shabbos, and we only got 23 more to go. 23 more. Hadrulav Shabbos. Okay, very good. Baruch Hashem. So this parak is talking about all the different types of candles, Erev Shabbos, the mitzvah to light Shabbos candles, which Shabbos candles, what wicks are you allowed to light with, and what oil allowed to light with. And we'll see why certain oils and certain wicks be passed, because maybe it will be a lack in Oneg Shabbos because of the smell, or maybe they'll come to be extinguished. And as we famously know, in the beginning, even towards the beginning of this parak, this is where Chazal were coming up, decided to put all the laws of Chanukah. Chanukah did not get its own Masechta like Megillah. Some reason Chazal put Meseches Chanukah in this parak over here, because obviously you understand the subject, it's lighting candles. So we will be discussing the next couple days Hilchot Chanukah. Right, so that will be exciting. What are you allowed to light with, and what are you allowed to light with? And Rashi says the beginning of the Mishnah is all referring to the type of wicks. And at a certain point in the middle of the Mishnah, we're going to start to discuss what types of oils. So what wicks you allowed to light with, what wicks you can't light with. I'm not going to translate now because the Gemara translates them all, or tries to translate them all, if I can understand what the Gemara is saying. So you can't light with lechesh, you can't light with choisen, lo bechalach, you can't light with chalach, lo bepsilas ha'ilan, lo bepsilas hamidbar, lo beroike shal p'naim, not with this green on the water. And now we're going to start the types of oils you can't light with. Lo bezephes, you can't light with zephes. This is tar. Lo beshava, not with wax. Lo b'shemen kik, not with this type of oil. Lo b'shemen streifa, we'll discuss what it is later. Lo be'alya, alya is this certain fat from the tail. Lo bechelav, and now it's certain fat. Nachum Amadi Omer Malik Mechelav Busher. Nachum says you could light with cooked fat. Whether it's cooked or not, you can't light with it. The Gemara is obviously going to describe this. Say the Machlokes, what the Machlokes Chacham and the Tanakama are, but he seems to concur with the Tanakama. The Gemara starts leches, which you're not allowed to light with. What is lechesh? Lechesh is sheicha de arza. We discussed it before, right before we started the parak, which is this hair-like material, this wool-like material that's in the cedar tree, in between the bark and the wood, right? So ask the Gemara, Shoicha de Arza. I'm sorry, I already jumped the gun. Lechesh Shoicha de Arza is from the cedar tree. Shoicha de Arza eitz ba'almu. What are you talking about? That's a piece of wood, and we're talking about wicks over here. So the Gemara says, no, it means Barmisa dispe. We're referring to the Armisa, the strands, the woolen strands that are there in between the bark and the tree. That's what we're referring to. So you can't light with that. I guess we'll see why in the Gemara why you can't. Come to the Gemara, we'll explain why you can't light with all these things. Not right now, but soon. But loy b'chaysin, you can't light with chaysin. What's chaysin? Rav Yosef na'oris shal pishtan. Chaysin is these. I don't know what na'oris. Does anyone know what na'oris is? It means flax or linen, flax of stalks. An exact translation. It's something flax. And Amalei Abaye says, how could that be?
It means the tow, T-O-W, of the flax. I don't know what tow is.
I don't either. Okay. the toe of the flax. The pasuk says it's the chaysin to the na'iris, which the pasuk seems to indicate the chaysin is something different than na'iris. How could you say they're the same thing? So Elam Abai retracts says it's kin to the diacal nuffits. It's flax which was diacal nuffits. It wasn't properly processed. I'm not sure what this exactly means. It was diacal.
Yeah, it says in the footnote that the toe is like the rejects of the flax fibers. These are like the what's it called? The scraps. It says yeah.
And what's diacal nuffits mean?
That's the flax whose stems have been beaten, but whose fibers have not been combed.
Okay, so they beat them and they comb them. So you only did one of the processes. You beat them and then comb them. That's considered inferior, and you're not allowed to light with that on Shabbos, Erev Shabbos. Okay. The Gemara goes further, lo b'chalach, and likewise you can't light with chalach. What is chalach? Amar Shmuel shalatin l'chol nechus yama. Shmuel said, I asked all the people who traveled the 7 seas, all the seas, who know things, who know about all the different types of plants. And they all said to me, it's called kulcha. That's not very helpful. What's kulcha? So Rav Yitzchak Bar Zira Amar Gushka. Rav Zira said it's gushkara, right? Gushkara, which basically what these things are some sort of silk. Rashi says they're psoilishal silk.
It's an inferior grade of silk made from the cocoon of a silkworm. It's carded, spun, and woven into cloth. It's unsuitable for use as a wick because its flame flickers. Right,
it flickers. Right, that would be a problem. So this is inferior silk. Rabin and Abaye were sitting in front of Rabban and Nechemya, the brother Reish Galusa. They saw that he was wearing this fancy clothes called mitachsa. So Amalei Rabin Abaye, Hainu klach. Rabin exclaimed to Abaye, "Look at that piece of that item of clothing he's wearing. That's the klach of the Mishnah, the silk that you're not allowed to light with." It's on that the Mishnah said. Amalei Anosh Shira Pardana Karinale. He answered him, says, "No, we call it something else. We call it Shira de Pardana. That's what we call it. We call it Shira Pardana, and it has a different name. It's silk of Pardana. Meisve. I want to ask you a question from Mishnah. Shira Maklach Sirkin Chayav Misitzes. We know the silk and klach and sirkin, all these materials are chayav and sitzes. You might think that because the Torah seems to indicate only wool and linen are chayav and sitzes. So the Mishnah is telling you that even these are chayav and sitzes. Maybe whether it's rabbinical, deraisa, but they're chayav as well. But the point is, it lists in two separate things. It lists silk and klach. So how can you tell me silk is the same thing as klach? Right? It's listed as two separate things. So answers the Gemara tiyufta. Answers the Gemara by saying I'll answer you no. There's two different types of silks. There's regular silk, and there's klach, which is silk of parnada. It's a different type of silk. So it's not a question that the Mishnah lists silk as separate as klach, because there's two grades of silk. The Gemara goes further.
Rabbi Becker?
Yeah.
Is the Isser of Shatnez only for clothing or for everything? Like you couldn't have a couch or a wall hanging or something made of Shatnez?
Anything which your body will get warmth from.
So a couch would be Asr?
Yes, a couch would be
but a wall hanging would be mutar.
Wall hanging is permitted, yes.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Psila se'idan. And you can't light with a psila se'ilan. What is psila se'idan? Achvina. Psila se'idan is achvina, which is a willow, arava, and they have also in between the bark and the tree, they also have this thin like strands that you can light with that as well. They don't light properly, and therefore you can't light with them. Rabin Vabai Tamrisa. Rabbi was walking along Paksib Tamrisa, it's a place. Chazinu Lahana Arbasa. They saw those boats. They saw these Arbasa boats. Arba means argues as boats, but they saw Arbasa, these trees. And Amar the Rabbi Abai Hana Eden Ditznan. Abai exclaimed that that's the Eden that the Mishnah talks about. They looked around them, everything was Torah to them. And they looked around and they said, that's the tree of the Mishnah. Amalei, he ate Spalma. He answered, no, that's a regular. What do you mean? That's wood. That's not a wick. So so he took some of the bark, peeled it off, and he showed him he showed him the little strands in between the bark and the tree. He said, this is what I'm talking about. The Gemara goes further to analyze the Mishnah. You can't light with the strands of the desert, which are shabra. These are long grass, tall grass, which is grown in the desert. These would be unsuitable wicks. And likewise, the green on top of the water you can't lie with. Mahi, what is the green on top of the water? If it's referring to the uchmatz the charitzi, this green growth that grows on top of water, that's on top of water. I'm not sure if it's lily pads or some sort of moss or whatever it is. The Gemara says that's afruche mafrichem. That they crumble apart. They're not able to be compact enough to light, so it can't be referring to that. So Elam Rav Chista, or Papa uchmatzid arba. It's referring to the moss that grows on top of the boat, that grows on the side of the boat. Apparently, that's able to be flammable. That's flammable. That doesn't break apart. Doesn't crumble. And the Mishnah is disqualifying that for wick. Tana, the Bryce learned Osif Aleim Shel Semer, Vishal Seir. The Mishnah we added on Vishal Semer, Vishal Seir. These are also unsuitable for wicks to be a piece of wool or a piece of hair. These are also unsuitable for wicks. Tana and our Mishnah didn't need to list them because our Tana felt there's no need to list them as unsuitable because Semer Michlatz Kavos, because Semer right away it doesn't light, doesn't properly catch fire. It right away shrivels. And Seir is unsuitable because it gets scorched. Again, these are not proper wicks, so our Tana of our Mishnah didn't feel a necessity to list them. Okay, let's just go to the next two dots on the top of the next page. 3 and 4 more lines. Below Bezephes, you can't lie with tar. Zephes is zifsa de shava. Zephes is the psoilus, is the inferior part that comes from the wax, from the shava. You can't lie with that. And I made a mistake. Zephes is zifsa. Zephes is zifsa. That helps you. And shava is kirusa. Shava is wax. Tana, ad kam psul psilos, mikam belach psul shmanim. The Gemara tells us until this point in the Mishnah, until you get the word zephes, everything is talking about things which are rendered psul for wicks, and from here forth and on is the psul of shemen, the oils that you light. Pshita, that's obvious. Anyone could see that. The Gemara says shava itzurche. It's needed to point out wax. I might think wax is even not good for wicks. Kamash Malon, that it's even good for wicks because the Mishnah is stressing that they're only bad to light. They can't to light as oil, but as wicks they're fine. As wicks they're fine. Now it seems like over here that the Gemara is saying that a wick, wicks are fine as wax are. Now it's unclear from this Gemara what exactly is the halacha of our modern day candles, which many people light from. Right? This Gemara over here seems to indicate that you're not allowed to light with candles. Right? So Rashi explains, so that's not a problem according to some people. Rishonim learned this Gemara. Yes, the only thing you're allowed to light with is wax wicks. But if it's a wax candle, the Gemara seems to say you're not allowed to light with it. That seems to be the Gemara. That's what some Rishonim write. However, Rashi and many other Rishonim reject that, and they learn Pshat in the Gemara over here, is the wicks that the Gemara is referring to, which are okay for wax, are wicks which are, they take wax and they surround a wick with it, which is our modern day candles. That's what it is. That's what the Gemara is referring to. It says wicks are okay when it comes to wax. It means wicks, not just using a wick that's wax and putting it in oil. It doesn't mean that. Like taking a very thin candle and putting it in the oil. It doesn't mean that. It means an actual wick. It means a wick that you surround by wax and make a candle out of it. That would be okay. That's what Rashi learns. The Gemara is only postling when you put wax in a little cup the same way they put oil and light it in that fashion. However you do that. You don't surround a wick with wax. You rather put the wax like on top of the wick, sort of. That is a problem. But a wax candle will be okay, halachically speaking. So that could be a confusion when you read this Gemara. I just want to point that out. Right? Most Rishonim learned the Gemara that a wax candle is okay. And the Gemara goes one line further. What's itron? That's the psoilas. That's the dregs of the zifsa. And Shava is psoilas. And Shava wax is the psoilas, is the inferior stuff that comes out of honey. Why do you need to tell me this? Anyway, everyone knows that. The answer is the mekach for business purposes. For business purposes, when you're dealing with names, semantics in business, what does someone sell? Right? If you sold someone a certain item, you have a right to give him this item because halachically, it's considered that item, as Taisus points that out. Okay, let's stop over here.
Shkoyach, do you have time for a few questions not related to this?
Shkoyach for Becker.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. I think so. It's 8:48. I do. Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing is learning in Makos yesterday. Yudalid Amud Aleph and Beit, I think, bottom of Al, top of Beit. It talks about learning from the word achoto in the pasuk in Vayikra. It talks about learning mefatem v'sach. You familiar with that?
Talks about what? Vifratim,
Mefatem v'sach, the compounding of the oil and the smearing of the oil that you're not authorized to do outside the base of Mikdash if you're not a Kohen and so on. That you have to bring a chatas for those. They're two separate things. So it doesn't say anywhere in the Gemara or in Rashi how achoto is used to learn mefatem v'sach. Like, why couldn't achoto be used to learn peya or you're not allowed to murder or all kinds of other things? How does it make the jump from applying the extra achoto to mefasem v'sach?
I have to see the Gemara inside. I'm not sure what you read the Gemara. What pasuk are they quoting?
Should I go get it?
Yeah, I would have to see it inside. I can't tell you offhand, but yeah.
All right, so you have time for me to get it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Sure, I'll get it, man.
Hi, sweetie pie.
We got a visitor.
Yeah, nice. Okay,
Okay.
you have Makos with you?
Yes.
Okay, so Yud Daled Amud Aleph in the Torah or Hashalem.
Oh, I took the wrong Masechta. Oh no. Okay. One moment. Okay, Danny, what daf is it on?
Daf Yud Daled Amud Aleph.
Okay.
So there's this long discussion, ping pong between the Rabbanan and Rav Yitzchak back and forth about the achato of the Reisha and the achato of the Sefer of the pasuk in Vayikra. The Torah or Shalem has the pasuk over there on the side. It's kedai to take a look at the pasuk to understand what we're talking about.
I don't have
it.
I don't
Okay,
have it.
All right, so the pasuk is Ish asher yikach et achoto bas aviv bas imo v'ra'ad ervata v'hi tireh et ervata chesed hu v'nichratu le'enei bnei amam ervat achoto gila avono yisa. So the achato in both the Reisha and the Seifa are extra, and from one we learn Shelo onshin min hadin. You know, you have to have a pasuk. You can't punish from just svara or kal v'chomer. And from the other, we learn. So they're going back and forth with what we learned from the other one. So if you go to Yud Daled Amud Beit at the top, it says. V'idach hahu mibayle lechalek kares lemefatem ulasach. So I don't understand the leap of going from, okay, there's an extra achato in this pasuk. Let's use it to learn about mefatem ulasach.
I see from
Why?
Rashi. Yeah, I see from Rashi. It's an eno inyan. This is one of the rules. If sometimes it's an extra word in the pasuk, there's an idea of an eno inyan. It's called. If it's not for this subject, we could learn it to a different subject. It's a concept in halacha. You're allowed to do such a thing, and the Gemara does it a lot of times. It has no relevance at all, but since it's extra here, we can learn it referring to a different subject.
But that's so random.
You're saying you feel that it would have to have some relevance, not totally random.
Yeah, like again, why can't you could pick anything out of a hat? Peya, lotirtzach, Shabbos candle lighting. I mean, anything. Why they just decided to pick out of a hat mefatem v'lasach? They don't have to justify that choice somehow.
I hear what you're saying. It does sound very random. I'm not in the sugi now, but you're right. It sounds very random. I mean, they do that a lot, though. Yeah.
So there's really no answer to this, or there's somewhere there is an answer.
Rashi, I just told you what Rashi says. That's what Rashi says. It's random. We see over here that it's needed to make a difference between the karis. There is some sort of separation between two karises here. That's what we're doing over here. Right? So where is it referring to? It's there for a separate subject. Yeah, for the karis and mefatim and misach to tell you there's two separate karises there. Yeah, it's random. That's the answer. This is an important idea that needs to be learned, and it's not needed to be applied here. So where do we apply that? We apply it somewhere else where it's necessary to apply this idea. Where is it necessary to apply this idea? To the two separate halachos of mefatim and sach. Right, reenacting this kataris and smearing it. Yeah, that's the answer.
And if I knew how to learn Tosfos and Rishonim and Achronim and the guys at the back, there'd still be no further understanding of it.
I mean, we could look farther. And there's some. Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is Pashup Shab and the Gemara. Yeah.
Okay, you've seen this before.
Yeah, I mean it's a concept that needs to be applied elsewhere, and the more we'll use it for different things if it's extra here. We need to separate, right? We need to make a separate.
It doesn't bother you?
No, not really. I don't know.
Okay.
Again, I'm not in the sugi here. Maybe it will if I learn it further, but yeah, we do find that concept a lot. It comes up a lot. It's called Neno Inyan.
Okay.
Is it one of Rishmal's? I mean, all these things that are Rishmal are not necessarily logical. The Rishmal are the 13 things. You know,
What about making principles?
Yeah, the 13 principles. You have two matching words. Like, you know, you can compare the subjects to each other. Like, that's pretty random just because of a matching word. You know.
Okay. And then the other question. What was the other question? What's it called? The idea Eino Inyan?
Yeah, it's called an Eino Inyan. If it's not here, if it's not for this subject, Tanoyu Inyan La'acher. Learn it for a different subject. The concept over here, it's not relevant here. Use it for something else.
Okay. All right, I can't remember the other question. So thanks a lot.
Okay, sure. All right.
All right, have a good day.
You too.
Huh?
Mazel tov on Mesechus, first parak Mesechus Shabbos finishing.
Mazel tov to you too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.